Hawks Nation, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of the HawksFanTV Podcast. I am your host, Mac.
And I am your co-host, Derek Freeze. What is up, Hawk Nation? Happy to be back here for, season 2 of the podcast. And we're getting right into the season preview. So happy to be back.
So happy to have you back, my man. I'm thrilled about this. Like I said on the last episode, guys, thrilled about this season for not only the Hawks, but HawksFanTV and this podcast and everything. I'm just so excited. Last week we did the Media Day recap, which was an incredible experience. Now, as I promised last week, we are going to do the season preview episode. And just to give you a quick little schedule of what we'll be doing, we'll be predicting our team MVP, our team most improved player, our team rookie of the year. We're going to predict the team overall record. We're going to analyze that in-season tournament because that's something new for the NBA. And honestly, I think the Hawks got a good chance to win our bracket. We're also going to pick a few marquee games throughout the season that we're going to, analyze and kind of, predict what emphasis could be on those games at that point in the season. And lastly, to wrap it up with something fun, we are going to try and predict an off-the-court story for the Hawks, whether that is another hot story about Trae Young missing a practice or who knows, maybe a rookie finding one of Atlanta's, landmarks and having a good time. So we'll see all about that, and I'm just so ready to get into it. So Derek, I'll go ahead and let you start, my man. Who is going to be your team MVP for the season?
I know it's so probably obvious just to say, hey, Trae Young. I mean, he is the best player on the team, but the guy also 2 years ago led the league in points and assists and about did it again last year, and we were a play-in team both times. So my team MVP is going to be none other than the jersey I'm wearing, Mr. Bogey Bogdanovic himself. And the reason for it is simple. Like last year when he signed that contract extension, I know a lot of people were kind of scratching their heads like, hey, we got AJ Griffin that showed a lot of promise. Why are y'all doing this? I think when Quinn got in last year, he looked around, he saw Bogey, and he was like, this guy is a must. And this is also the first time in 2 years he is healthy entering in the season. This man has shot 40% from three his entire time throughout Atlanta. And then last year, after missing 25 games prior to the All-Star break, he finally got healthy, came back. He finished the year playing 20 of the last 23 games, and he only put up in that time 45% three. He shot 45% from three on 5.9 attempts per game. He was shooting 49% from the field. The man, if he's healthy and he plays like he did at the end of last year and that he did the FIBA World Cup, we're talking about a 6th Man of the Year candidate. And if that does happen, if Bogey does stay healthy, yes, he might not have the same, he might not be as fast as he was, back in our run to the Eastern Conference Finals for defensive purposes, but his leadership, he even said at media days, he went to Quinn, how can I be a better leader? I think if he hits on all cylinders this year, that right there will be the reason enough to make him the team MVP.
I love it, man. I love it. No, and I mean, you're exactly right. His play over the World Cup and him now being fully healthy, hopefully for the entire season. Obviously, I'm incredibly excited to see what Bogey does, man. I'm a huge Bogey guy myself, but I actually went a different direction for team MVP. For my choice, I chose Mr. DeJounte Murray, and I chose him for a few different reasons. The first being that I guess it doesn't necessarily apply to what I'm predicting his play, but if the Hawks are going to be a top 4 seed, I think DeJounte Murray has to be our team MVP. Because Trae Young is going to do what Trae Young is going to do, man. Like you said, the guy led the league in points and assists basically 2 years in a row. He's going to get his buckets. He's going to get his assists. I'm not worried about Trae at this point. He's a proven product. But for us to be an actual championship contending team, we can't just have one superstar that is surrounded by a bunch of guys that, will occasionally have a game where they play really well, right? So DeJounte Murray is obviously a guy that was an all-star previously in San Antonio. So he's got what it takes to be, a top, 20 player in a given season in this league, right? Top 25 player. So with that being said, DeJounte was in the gym what seemed like every single day this summer. If you followed him on Instagram, his stories were constantly of him in the gym working. I remember there were a few times that he posted timestamp and it'd be like past midnight. I think one was even at like 1 o'clock in the morning. He's in the gym. So I know he's working, working his tail off this offseason. I'm excited to see that pay off for him. He also signed that contract. He's making a home in Atlanta. That's actually one of the questions that I asked him at Media Day was about, how do you feel about Atlanta being your home and all that? And he said he fits right in with the culture and what the city's about and all of that. And because of that, I think he's just going to be that much more comfortable outside of the facility, if that makes any sense. And that matters. These guys are human beings, they're not robots. And also, just like you said, the first year fully being in Quinn's system, a system that emphasizes ball movement and three-point shooting, something that I don't think DeJounte's ever been, the sharp shooter of a player, but he's got a smooth stroke from three, man. And if he can get hot, we saw it last year a few times, he could hit 4 or 5 threes in a game and it'd be this, turning point for us offensively. So DeJounte Murray is somebody that I do predict is going to be our team MVP. But as I kind of started this, and I'll end it on this as well, I do think he needs to be our team MVP. So we'll move on to the next category, the next award, if you will, and that is going to be the team most improved. Mine is somebody that, to be completely honest, I don't think this matters whether or not he ends up being a starter for me to still consider him into being the most improved, and that's actually Saddiq Bey. I'm guessing most people thought I was going to say Jalen Johnson, and just wait on that one. But no, Saddiq, man, again, just like I said with DeJounte, being in Quinn's system for a full year, I think he may be the guy that honestly benefits from it the most. Because that ball movement, and he's just going to be able to hit those spot up threes that he is so good at. Like that is why Saddiq Bey is in the NBA. I know he can do more things. I understand that, but each guy, for the most part, unless you're this 5-tool player, you're going to have one thing that you're special at, and that's what he's special at, man. So I could see him, whether it's being a starter or coming off the bench later in the season, hitting again 4, 5, 6 threes a game for us and averaging, maybe 15 points a game, if not more, in this system that just is just so, about the offensive attack, especially behind the perimeter. So I think Saddiq Bey will benefit the most from this system. And because of that, he is my most improved. So Mr. Freeze, I'm excited to hear what you have for your most improved for this season.
No, I love that one. I mean, of course, the best one would be DeAndre Hunter, lived up to his contract. But
dude, after his media day questions, I don't know if he's going to be an Atlanta Hawk by the end of the year. So we'll see what happens with that.
So even Brad Rowland talked about you asking that question and talked about how awkward it got afterwards. He's like, I know he's the most soft, he's a pretty soft spoken guy. I don't know if that was a sarcasm, but yeah, it was awkward. It was awkward. He said it on his podcast. He goes, it was awkward. But for me, I'm going with a 3rd-year player. I'm going with Jalen Johnson. We're both kind of in the same mind space of hey, John Collins is not here. Someone's got to step up. Jalen Johnson didn't play much his first year. Last year, he played 70 games. He was averaging right under 15 minutes per game, 5.6 points per game, 4 rebounds, 1.2 assists. He was shooting right under 50% from the field. But he was only getting to the line about 1.1 times per game and shooting only under 63%. But the biggest turning point to me was when Quinn got here. Quinn wasn't even running his system last year. That's something I forgot to say with Bogey. He just came in and he was trying to just kind of do it on the fly with what they already had. But for Jalen, Nate just did not know how to work with him. I mean, Jalen did a good job at Media Day of not throwing Nate and company under the bus, but you could just see it. Once Quinn got there, stuff started clicking with him. Did he still get lost defensively at times? Yes, but he looked a little bit more confident out there. And that's where I think really Quinn's going to be able to unlock this guy. He is special. He is 6'8", 225. He's an athletic freak. People have said he's kind of like a Wish.com LeBron because of his size and athleticism. And funny enough, who did he work out with over the summer? LeBron James. And they see the story that I forgot what her name is that wrote for the AJC when he just talks about breaking down all that all that LeBron was telling him and how the attention to details and just how him and all the other guys, not just DeAndre Morey, but they've been in Atlanta. They've been practicing, quote unquote practicing. They can't call it practicing, before the season starts. But I feel like this guy, Quinn's going to unlock him. I think that he could start at the 4. I mean, we got a lot of guys that can play the 3 or 4. I think Bay might actually get the nod up front unless Quinn just values what Jalen can do in the pick and roll. I do think that, he has been working on his threes and his free throw shooting. He talked about wanting to keep his balance more while shooting. I think that it's all going to pay dividends because also in Quinn's system, we're going to run the ball more. Jalen's not that good in half-court offense, but he excels in transition. We might even get to see a little point Jalen at times because he does have some ball handling skills. And when he puts his head down and gets to the rack, that's another thing I think is going to go up this year. Quinn's going to basically get to the basket, get fouled, get to the line. And if he's been working on his free throws and three-point shooting, I think this is all going to lead to a huge season for Jalen Johnson. I think Quinn's finally going to unlock this athletic freak for us. And that's why I have Jalen Johnson as my most improved player for the Hawks this season.
Love it, man. I love it. Yeah, no, we're both in the same boat of the 4 is going to be the most improved. So I'm excited to see it. No, I guess that's not a slight at John Collins. We were just saying the 4 should be the most improved. So yeah, moving on. The next one would be Rookie of the Year. So before we do this one, Derek and I were talking off air and realized that we should probably give a little bit of clarity to this question because obviously Rookie of the Year, if you were basing it on their NBA stats this year, would probably have to go to Kobe because he probably will be the only one that gets any substantial amount of minutes, with Seth and Muhammad most likely filling in here and there when there's injuries or, thank God COVID won't happen anymore. But if there's anything comparable to something like that, that's when they'll fill in, right? So Rookie of the Year is going to cover all 3 of our rookies. I know 2 of them will most likely be in the G League for the most part. So if we're basing it off stats, we'll definitely have to, have their stats will have to be inflated a little bit because they're in the G League. But with all that being said, my Rookie of the Year is actually going to be Muhammad Gay. I think this guy could very well not end up making very much of an impact this year, right? I truly don't think he's going to make a huge impact unless we have some sort of injury that is probably catastrophic at the moment. But if he ends up being this amazing player that a lot of us think he can be, maybe it won't be as much. But, I have to admit, if he's seeing significant playing time at any point in the season, something bad has probably
not probably. Something bad has happened.
So I don't want to see him on an NBA court too much this season. But it's hard to not pick this guy when you have Trae Young literally saying about him, Mo, one of our rookies. I mean, a lot of people may not know who he is, but he's going to be someone who a lot of people will know moving forward. Come on, and you and I were saying that, and we weren't alone. There were other people in Hawks Nation saying things like this. But during the summer, when we drafted him and watching all this tape, and then the summer league, we were saying, oh my gosh, this is the most exciting rookie we have. Kobe could be a stud, but man, Muhammad could end up being this steal of the draft even. So to get that kind of praise from Trae Young, I know Trae Young isn't the ultimate talent evaluator in the NBA. I'm not saying he is. But, he obviously knows what it looks like. And I don't know, man. It makes me excited. So because of that, I don't see Muhammad having many stats in the NBA. I see him honestly probably destroying it in the G League. But I will say, I do think the first month or 2 of the season, even in the G League, he probably will have some hiccups. Or probably a little bit of a learning process. Even the G League is much faster of a pace of a game than it is in college, right? So he probably will have a little bit of a learning curve, but his just natural ability and his fluidity, he's just so fluid on the court, right? He's fluid, but he's also got this random power out of nowhere. If you guys remember in Summer League, he tried to dunk on someone. I can't remember who he tried to dunk on, but oh my God. He's
got some springs.
Yeah.
He's got some springs.
So this guy could honestly really end up being a huge stud for us. So because of that, I'm giving him my Rookie of the Year. But I guess I should clarify, I don't think he'll make much of an impact this year. So I will let you fill us in on your choice now.
Well, no, like you said, like, with this team, like we are a younger team, but we're not in need to play in these rookies unless something happens. So that's why we made a point to conceptualize. Part of me did want to say Kobe Buffkin because I know they're going to send him down to the Skyhawks and really have him work at the point, playing the point, something they didn't really do at Michigan. We saw it the summer league, get him outside his comfort zone a little bit. But I'm with you. Muhammad Gay, to me, is going to be the rookie of the year. All the intangibles, just like the guys, I know I reiterated this before. He's only been playing like basketball since he was 16 years old. And every year he's gotten better and better. At Wazoo, even Washington State, he got immensely better from first year to second year. Yes, I know this is different. Even the G League, like you said, is different. But that kind of work ethic and that ability to take on, the ability to learn this game, being with Quinn Snyder in the system, having a Clint Capella that you can look up to now. Muhammad is definitely going to be a better offensive player than Clint, but I just looking at this guy, and two, you saw it immediately in the summer league. His blocks went up per game. I know it's a real small sample size as compared to what he did in college, but remember, if y'all remember what I said over the summer when we was talking about him, dude that follows Washington State, he's an NBA insider, but he's a Washington State fan. He basically said last year they were decimated by injuries at the bigs. They told Muhammad Gay, you get the 2 fouls, you just let people go. So it's going to be, to me, I think he's going to really pop on the defensive stats from last year to this year. I think that he's going to continue to grow. And at this point, what we need from these rookies is for them to grow and to be ready in the future. Barring industry injuries, we shouldn't be wanting to see them too much in the NBA right off the rip. So for that reason, Muhammad Gay is also mine. We agree, Matt.
we agree on something, Derek. Isn't it great? So moving on to our next one, we compared notes before, guys, off air, and we promise we did not do this one on purpose. It's not the exact same, but we again basically agree on something here. That's predicting the overall record for the team. And I have it at 45-37. So at 45-37, I do feel like that puts us safely in the 4 seed range, maybe 5th, depending on, some random, team that, like the Bulls a few years ago, that ended up being like a top 4 or 5 seed when nobody really predicted them to be that high preseason, right? Like there could end up being a team like that. But I will say the top 2 seeds are more than likely going to be locked up by Milwaukee and Boston. I do think we could end up being a 3 seed, which could be, as many as 50 wins, maybe 51, as a 3 seed above a Cleveland. But again, I do think Cleveland just, for whatever reason, we have our struggles at times in the regular season. So I try to remember to be logical and rational and reasonable with this prediction. So 45-37, I do feel pretty safe at. Again, I have this in about the 4 or 5 seed range. But again, give or take 5 games, I could easily see that happening. So, but Derek, I'll let you share yours now. And it's, as I mentioned, a little close.
Yeah, it was funny. I actually went 46-36 with the Hawks finishing 4th in the East. And I know it's just easy to say, oh, you 2 homers. Like, we didn't put them first or second. And my thought process is this. Quinn came in last year. He didn't implement the system. This is the first time we're actually getting to see it. You saw more buy-in from players last year. Even Trae Young was playing defense last year. Never forget that game against Golden State at home where he steals the ball at the end to seal the victory. Like, he's getting buy-in from the players. To hear that the players are, before they're even supposed to show up for training camp, they're all here in Atlanta. They're playing. The coaches are watching, but NBA rules, they can't coach. But to hear that kind of stuff, I think that's the biggest X factor. Quinn is a very high basketball IQ. He is a pick and roll savant. And just to see, like, even last year when Quinn first got there, you could see like there was a picture of him, Kyle, and Trey. Quinn, Kyle, and Trey sitting there at practice, and you could just tell like Trace is taking it all in. I do think that that combined with the fact that, yes, Boston and Milwaukee should be two of the top teams in the East, hands down. I do still have Cleveland at number 3. I mean, I do think they added well to their team. But for the other teams that are kind of vying for the same position as we are, Philadelphia, the 76ers, that team's in turmoil right now. Like that, if you don't think that off-court stuff's going to translate to on-court problems, maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see how it doesn't. The Knicks, it's a Tom Thibodeau team. You know they're going to play good defense, but last year they got super lucky. In fact, they were in terms of injuries. There was only one other team in the league that actually had lost fewer games to injuries or COVID or illness or anything than the Knicks, and it was the Sacramento Kings. You know, the Heat, they missed out on everything this summer. They missed out on Dane. They missed out on Holiday. Then they watched Strus and Gabe Vincent walk away in free agency, 2 guys that were instrumental to that run. Now, I'm not saying that you want to catch Miami in the playoffs by any means. I think regular season, they shouldn't be quite up there with us. I do think that, you know, in the past, the last 2 years, we've been around 500, and it's because the Hawks have played down to their competition. How many times have we seen the Phoenix Suns were on, what, a 19-game win streak that time when we beat them? We'll beat the Bucks, but then we'll lose to Detroit. Like the inconsistency and offense, defense, especially, I mean, defense, a lot of times, I mean, we were like ranked 25th last year. The difference between 25th and 15th is just a lot of times is want and stuff. And I think Quinn's going to be able to unlock that, get us better defensively. And then offensively, what really kind of bothered me about the Hawks under Nate is too often we would get late in the clock, you know, the shot clock. We have like 7 seconds left, and it was this ISO hero ball. I do think having this system, being able to have a guy that's a tactician of offensive basketball, I do think that's going to cause us to get up there to that fourth, hit our goal. What Dejounte Murray said at Media Day, play-in is unacceptable with this team. They won the top 4 seed. I love the buy-in. I hope I'm right, of course, but I got a good feel for this team. And normally, you know, I'm a lifelong Atlanta sports sufferer. There's always a bit of optimism at the beginning of the season, but something just feels different with this team. I hope that they back up all the shit talking.
We'll see, man. It's right around the corner, so we'll see. So yeah, those are our predictions. As I said, they were pretty close, but again, I don't think we are too crazy in those. I think those are probably relatively safe predictions. But moving on to the next thing, we're going to kind of break down real quick. We'll do this one pretty quickly because I'll be honest, you know, I think we'll be able to provide a better breakdown or preview, if you will, next year, because we really don't know how this is going to look, and that's the in-season tournament. And you know, I'll be honest with who the Hawks ended up getting with the 76ers being, you know, by the terms of record and seeding one up, supposed to be the best team in our bracket. I agree with you. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Philly ends up being like the 8th seed this year. You know what I mean? Like I think they're going to have a pretty off year, but we'll see what happens. We also have, I believe it is Indiana, Detroit, and Cleveland. Cleveland is not a team that I'm scared of, man. You know, when we did the play-in tournament a couple years ago, we had to go up to Cleveland in a you know win or go home scenario, and Trae Young went off and we won. Like I'm honestly not scared of it. If Cleveland doesn't have LeBron James, you know, suiting up for him, I'm not scared of him. So I wouldn't be worried about that. And obviously Detroit, that's a win, that's a dub. Not even going to worry about it. Indiana probably could end up giving us fits, but again, I don't see them being a top, you know, 6 seed in the East. So I don't think there'll be much of an issue. So we very well could, you know, end up representing, you know, our little bracket in Vegas and go 4-0 or maybe 3-1. Obviously, if we go 4-0, we'll get in there because, you know, it's round robin, you know, we'd be the only one. But my last little analysis on it, I guess, because obviously I don't want to predict what other teams from the brackets would be in Vegas. If we get there, that obviously would be really cool for us. A cool experience for the guys on the team, more exposure as just a brand of the Atlanta Hawks. But I got to be honest, I don't know. I know it's early in the season, so I'm probably going to sound like a little bit of an old man here, but I don't know if I do want like the extra wear and tear. I know more meaningful basketball is always fun, and I get it's a way to try to make the beginning of the season mean a little bit more. But as I kind of prefaced my analysis of this with saying I could probably provide a better one next year, if this ends up being something that the players take it super serious and these games are like super thrilling and it's like, oh my gosh, that was awesome, man. I could definitely see it being something that, I as a fan look more forward to in coming seasons. But I guess last thing I'll say on it is I truly don't think 5 years down the road, if we do the in-season tournament every single year, that there will be even a single year that the champion of the in-season tournament is the overall NBA champion at the end of the year. That's just my opinion on it, my hot take, if you will, on it. But I still think it was, a good idea nonetheless.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I like the idea. I mean, it's similar to what you see in soccer, like the Premier League has the FA Cup. Like, yes, the G League's not getting the ball back with that. I mean, anytime you have more meaningful games, it is, I like that. I like when the stakes are raised. But that leads to my question for this thing. Are the players going to buy in, and will the fans buy in? If we're getting playoff-like atmospheres in November and December, hell yes, sign me up for that. But if not, then yeah, maybe not. But I'm hoping that Trey did say when he was there for the announcement of it, he said, if I remember right, oh, we're gonna win that thing. So I love that from Trey. I hope we come in with that mentality. We did get the easiest draw, I feel, of all the groups, the three groups in the East, because we did, avoid Boston and Milwaukee. Philly is kind of, in turmoil right now. Cleveland, well, I think they were last year were like the top defensive team in the league. I wish we'd had Cleveland at home and Philly on the road, but again, I don't think this is too daunting. I think that we could, depending on the buy-in from the players, we could go 4-0 in this. Obviously, as we get closer, we'll see how the team is playing before we make these things. But it is important to note that just winning the group is not the only way for you to get into the knockout round. There's 3 groups per conference, and there's also a wild card. Tiebreakers will be handled on head-to-head and group. Point differential will be second, total points scored, regular season record third, and random drawing last. So even if the Hawks did drop a game, there's still a chance, I believe, that they can still make it to the knockout round. Like I said, though, I'm going to hold off judgment on this thing until I kind of see how the players and the fans react. I mean, it's fun, yeah, but we'll kind of see how it goes.
Oh, yeah. No, and I think that's the best way to put it. If the players and the fans buy in and it ends up being this really fun atmosphere and crazy games and all that, like you said, I will end up being a fan of it. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So I guess last thing we're kind of breaking down when it comes to the games of the season, because like I said, our last thing is the off-court thing. We both have a couple games, a couple marquee matchups, if you will, throughout the season that we view will be very big games for the Hawks and will have a lot of meaning behind them. So the first one I got is actually February 7th at Boston. This one is, if I remember correctly, our second game against Boston in the season. So it's not the first time we'll see them, but it is right before All-Star break. And as you and I were saying off air, or maybe even earlier in this episode, an All-Star break in Major League Baseball is like halfway through the season. In basketball, not as much. I mean, I want to say it's almost 2/3 of the season, not a complete 2/3, but close to it. It's there's a big chunk of the season. So point being, going into All-Star break, it's a good litmus test of like, how is your team going to look the rest of the year, right? So February 7th at Boston. This is a team that beat us in the playoffs last year. Obviously, we have history with this team, Atlanta and Boston. And, as we both are guessing, they should be a top 2 seed, right? So I do think this is going to be a great opportunity for us to, one, prove ourselves in the East and prove ourselves that we can go against the top dogs in the East. And also a great opportunity for us to potentially, I don't know what could be going on at that point. It could be that like, no, we're the 2 seed and they're the 3 seed, right? So we're just distancing ourselves that much more in the standings, right? My second one is going to be March 21st at Phoenix, right? So this is obviously a little bit later in the season. At this point, there will be less than a month until the playoffs. And Phoenix is going to be a super team, right? And I would go ahead and bet pretty good money. I know sometimes things get shaken up in the playoffs, but if the Atlanta Hawks are to make the NBA Finals this year, there is a very high chance that the team that we are playing in a 7-game series for an NBA championship is the Phoenix Suns. So again, I think this is a great opportunity for us to go on the road, prove that we can go up against the best. I remember when we won 60 games. That was also the Warriors' first year of being like the Warriors, right? And I remember we went on the road. I think it was later in the season like that. We played the Warriors. I honestly should have looked it up before this episode, but I don't remember if we won or lost, but it was a tough game. And I remember thinking like, oh, dude, we'll have a chance if we actually get there. We, of course, ended up getting swept by LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals.
NYPD paid a little bit into that with breaking Cephalosha's leg.
I'm not trying to bring up too much past trauma for Hawks fans. But point being is, I think, Phoenix could very well be the 1 seed in the West at that point. At that point, again, who knows? Maybe the Hawks are a top 3 seed and we're fighting for, playoff seeding at that point, home court advantage throughout, whatever it may be. So I think that one could be a huge one for us. And last one, real quick. I included this one when I was going through my notes because I realized both of the ones that I had were on our road games. So there's got to be at least one marquee matchup at home, right? And that's going to be January 26th versus Dallas. This one doesn't really need too much explanation as we all really understand why this is a marquee matchup. But Dallas, again, just like Phoenix, should be a team, emphasis on should. They should be a very good team in the West, and they should be a top 4 seed in the West with the 2 stars that they have. If they can make that work, Luka and Kyrie are a scary duo. If they can make it work, It did, the sample size we got from last year, I don't know if they will make it work, but it's we'll see what happens with that. But this is obviously always a huge game. As long as Trae Young and Luka Doncic, either one of them are an Atlanta Hawk or a Dallas Maverick, this one is going to be a big game. It's always going to have little deeper meaning to it, if you will. So that's my last marquee matchup of the year. And I think if we go 3-0 in those games, we probably are a top 3 seed. I will say that.
I mean, I kind of broke the rules a little bit. I went for actually 2 different sets of games that are played, not back to back, but they're played one after each other. And they're both at different ends of the season. The first 2 ones is game 2 and game 3. Game 2, we host the Knicks at home. That's always a fun time for all the New Yorkers that realize that, it's better in Atlanta and they move down here. They like to show up. It's always a fun atmosphere. But it'd be great to see exactly where we are implementing Quinn's system against a tough defensive team that's been together in Tom Thibodeau's Knicks. And then 2 days later, we travel up to Milwaukee to play the Bucks. AJ Griffin Bowl, the Griffin Bowl, father versus son. This time it's a head coach. Mac asked, AJ, great question at media day. Got him laughing. He was looking forward to it. You can tell he's got a little juice about him when he talked about that. He's 2-1 against his dad so far. And it's going to be one of the best teams in the East. They disassembled a big 3, getting Damian Lillard to go along with Chris Middleton and Giannis. It's going to be interesting to see how we both match up, both implementing new coaches and new systems. And, well, we're not really having too many new players, but it's going to be interesting there. And then later on in the season, like I've kind of talked about how inconsistent the Hawks have been in the regular season the past couple of years. One thing that has been consistent for the last 3 years, the Hawks have turned it on after the All-Star break. So my 2 games back-to-back is going to be home at Boston and Milwaukee. This is going to be on March 28th and March 30th. And what I love about this is going to be coming into that time of year where everyone's going to be vying for seats. This is for playoff seating. This is where your team should be, operating at its peak peak performance, and I want to see us mano a mano against the two supposed top teams in the East, see where we stack up, because you can't make it to the NBA Finals to play the Phoenix Suns if you don't get out the East. And to get out the East, we'll probably have to take down one or two. So I want to see where we kind of stack up heading into that final kind of stretch there. And these are games that I'm really excited for.
Those are great, especially those last two, man. Like you said, those are going to be huge games, man. So, it's going to be a fun season. Hopefully, an all-time season for the Atlanta Hawks. But
and I will be. Oh,
no, go ahead. Sorry.
I said, and your boy's going to be watching off in the 6-man section again. I got my tryouts tomorrow night.
Yes, sir.
My wife is actually joining me this year in it too.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So like I said, we'll wrap it up on the something a little fun. We'll try and be quick here. We're running out a little time. So that's going to be trying to get an off-court moment for the Hawks. Like I said, whether that's, maybe some drama, which I don't think that'll happen this year under Quinn, or something else, right? So mine is actually going to be, so I noticed on Media Day, Big O, Onyeka Okongwu, and Jalen Johnson are actually really good friends. So I think they're going to start a new podcast together, and it's going to be called Your Morning OJ, and it's going to be spelled OJ. It's OOJJ, but it's pronounced OJ, right? A double O, double J. So that's my guess. I don't know what the hell they're going to talk about, but they're gonna start one, because everybody starts one at this point. I mean, look at us. So
case in point.
My prediction. And if they do that, I will definitely be a avid listener. So that's my off the court prediction.
Well, after last night, I used to always joke that I don't know why Onyeka wore 17 when he could have been 007. But after him hitting that 3, maybe it needs to be 003. But my fun kind of thing, who's going to take Muhammad Gay to Magic City?
That happened.
Hopefully, I don't know why. I don't know why, but that just is it's a funny thought to me. So,
oh yeah, no, it's bound to happen at some point. You know what? Maybe it's already happened. Who knows? But John's not on the team anymore. So,
hey, Lemon Pepper Lou is still around Atlanta. I'm sure he still has access to the stadium.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, guys. Like I said, we'll wrap it up on that one. I think it's going to be a great season for the Hawks, but that is yet to be determined. So definitely be looking out for more episodes. Obviously, we got a couple more episodes that we'll do before the season actually starts. And then once the season starts, we'll just be doing like it was last year, where it'll kind of just be weekly recaps, whatever happened that week in news, and obviously in games and results and all that good stuff. So, guys, just be looking out for more HawksFanTV. You can always check out all of our content at HawksFanTV.com. That's where you'll find our articles and other cool content. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter/X and Instagram at HawksFanTV. And as always, guys, thank you for support.
Thank you, guys. Until next week.
Go Hawks, baby.
Go Hawks.
Oh.